a cramped barracks. Weeks later. Scene: Danny receives a care package from Mia, filled with cookies and a letter. She writes about her school play and how she misses him. Danny reads it alone, tears falling as he imagines her on stage. Jamal notices and sits with him, sharing a letter from his own daughter. They talk about what keeps them going: family, hope, each other. Outside, a distant explosion reminds them of the war they can't escape. Emotional core: the bittersweet connection to home, a lifeline amid despair. Key moment: Danny writes back to Mia, promising to be her hero, though he feels broken inside. A forward operating base under siege. Scene: the base is attacked, and Danny's squad is pinned down. Jamal is critically wounded while shielding Danny from shrapnel. As medics rush Jamal to surgery, Danny spirals, blaming himself. He sits in the chapel, clutching Jamal's bracelet and Rodriguez's dog tags, questioning why he's still alive. A chaplain listens silently as Danny confesses his guilt and fear of failing those he loves. Emotional core: the crushing guilt of survival and the struggle to find purpose. Key moment: Danny prays for Jamal's survival, whispering, "Don't leave me, brother." A military hospital, then the Texas bus station, 2025. Scene: Danny visits Jamal, who survived but lost a leg. They share a tearful embrace, promising to stay in touch. Danny is discharged and returns home, stepping off the bus to see his family waiting. Mia runs to him, and Ellen sobs as she holds her son. At home, Danny places Rodriguez's dog tags on a shelf beside Jamal's bracelet. He looks at the stars through his window, feeling both haunted and hopeful. Emotional core: the complex joy of reunion tempered by the scars of war. Key moment: Danny tells Mia, "I'm home, but I'll never forget them." She hugs him, saying, "You don't have to." Danny's family home in small-town Texas, late 2025, a few months after his return. Scene: Danny sits in his childhood bedroom, staring at a half-unpacked duffel bag. The room feels foreign. Posters of old rock bands and high school trophies clash with the memories of war. Downstairs, Ellen cooks dinner, her cheerful voice calling him, but Danny hesitates. He grips Jamal's friendship bracelet, now worn and frayed, and Rodriguez's dog tags, cold against his palm. At a local diner, Danny meets Mia for lunch, but he freezes when a car backfires outside, his hand instinctively reaching for a weapon that isn't there. Mia, now 14, notices his tension and gently touches his arm, saying, "You're safe, Danny." He forces a smile but feels like a stranger in his own skin. Later, at a VA support group, Danny listens to other veterans share their struggles. A grizzled older vet, Tom, tells him, "The war doesn't end when you come home, kid. You just learn to carry it different." That night, Danny dreams of the ambush. Rodriguez's face, Jamal's screams. He wakes in a cold sweat and steps outside, looking at the Texas stars. He pulls out his phone and calls Jamal, now living in Atlanta. Jamal's voice is steady but tired as he admits he's struggling too. They talk until dawn, laughing about old squad jokes, crying over shared losses. Jamal says, "We're still fighting, Tex, just a different battle now." Emotional core: the isolating struggle of reintegration, tempered by the lifeline of brotherhood and small steps toward healing. Key moment: Danny writes in a journal, a VA therapist's suggestion, penning, "I don't know who I am without the war, but I'm trying to find him, for Mia, for Jamal, for Sarge." Small-town Texas, early 2026, a community center and nearby park. Scene: Danny volunteers at a local veterans outreach program, encouraged by his VA therapist and Tom, the older vet from the support group. He's hesitant, feeling unworthy to help others when he's still haunted by nightmares. At the community center, he meets Sarah, a former Army medic who runs the program. She's tough but kind, seeing through Danny's guarded exterior. They work together to organize a care package drive for deployed soldiers, and Danny opens up about Rodriguez and Jamal, his voice breaking as he describes in a rare moment of vulnerability. During a break, Danny visits a nearby park with Mia, who's growing into a confident teenager. She asks why he keeps volunteering despite how hard it is. Danny struggles to explain, then points to the stars just visible in the dusk sky, saying, "It's for them, the ones who didn't come home, and for me to keep going." Mia nods, understanding more than he expects. Later, Danny and Sarah deliver care packages to a National Guard unit preparing for deployment. The young soldiers remind Danny of himself 3 years ago. One thanks him, calling him a hero. but Danny shakes his head, saying, "The real heroes are the ones still out there." That night, Danny calls Jamal, who started coaching youth basketball despite his prosthetic leg. Jamal inspires Danny, saying, "You're not just surviving, Tex, you're building something new." Danny looks at a photo of his old squad, then at a new one from the outreach event, feeling a spark of purpose. Emotional core, the tentative rediscovery of purpose through service to others, balanced by the lingering pain of survivor's guilt. Key moment. Danny places his star-shaped sticker on a care package, whispering, "This one's for you, Sarge," as he finds meaning in honoring his fallen brothers by helping others. Small town Texas and a nearby cemetery. Spring 2026. Scene. Danny attends a memorial ceremony for fallen soldiers at a local cemetery, organized by Sarah's Veterans Outreach Program. He's nervous, clutching Rodriguez's dog tags and Jamal's bracelet, unsure if he can face the weight of remembrance in public. Sarah stands beside him, offering quiet support, and shares that she lost her best friend in combat years ago, revealing her own scars. Danny nods, feeling a connection but still guarded. As the ceremony begins, Danny spots Rodriguez's name on a memorial plaque. Flashbacks hit hard. Rodriguez's laugh, his final moments in the ambush. Danny's hands shake and he steps away, overwhelmed. Mia, there with Ellen, follows him to a quiet corner of the cemetery. She sits with him, not pushing, just holding his hand. Danny confesses he feels he failed Rodriguez by surviving. Mia, wise beyond her years, says, "You're carrying him with you." Her words cut through his guilt and he hugs her tightly. Later. Danny visits his father at home. His dad, usually reserved, shares a rare story about his own Vietnam struggles, admitting he still carries guilt too. They bond over their shared silence, and his father hands Danny a worn journal, saying, "Write their stories, son. Keep them alive." That night, Danny starts writing about Rodriguez, his humor, his courage. In the journal, tears falling, but a sense of release growing. He texts Jamal a photo of the page, and Jamal responds, "Keep writing, Tex. We're still here." Emotional core. Confronting unresolved guilt and finding solace in family and legacy, marking a turning point in Danny's healing. Key moment. Danny traces Rodriguez's name on the memorial plaque, whispering, "I'm telling your story, Sarge," as he begins to forgive himself. Small town Texas, a high school gymnasium and a quiet porch, spring 2026. Scene. Danny is invited to speak at his old high school's spring assembly about his Army experience, organized by Sarah's Veterans Outreach Program to inspire students. He's reluctant, haunted by the fear of being seen as a broken soldier rather than a hero. Standing in the gym, surrounded by familiar banners and curious teens, Danny feels like an outsider in a place he once called home. He grips Rodriguez's dog tags in his pocket and begins speaking, voice unsteady, about the brotherhood he found in the Army, not glory or victory. He shares a story about Rodriguez teaching him to cook a terrible camp meal, earning laughs from the students. The vulnerability surprises him, and a student's question, "Was it worth it?" catches him off guard. Danny pauses, then says, "For the people I fought for, yeah. For the ones I lost. I'm still figuring that out." The room is silent, then erupts in applause, and Danny feels a crack in his isolation. Afterward, Sarah praises his honesty, and they share a quiet moment outside the gym. She admits she avoids her own high school reunions, feeling like she doesn't fit anymore. Danny nods, grateful for someone who understands. That evening, on his family's porch, Danny sits with Ellen, who's knitting a scarf for Mia. She tells him how proud she is, not just for his service, but for his courage to keep trying. Danny opens up about feeling like he's living in two worlds, the war and home. Ellen takes his hand, saying, "You're right here, Danny. That's enough for now." He looks at the stars, feeling anchored for the first time in months. Later, he texts Jamal, "Spoke at the school today. Felt like Sarge was there." Jamal replies, "He was, Tex. Keep showing up." Emotional core. The struggle to reclaim a sense of belonging, finding strength in vulnerability and community support. Key moment. Danny looks at the high school students and sees Mia among them, smiling proudly as he realizes his story matters to those he loves. Small town Texas, a community festival and a quiet hilltop, summer 2026. Scene. Danny helps Sarah and the Veterans Outreach Program set up a booth at the town's annual summer festival, a lively event with music, food, and families. He's more at ease than before, joking with Sarah as they hang a banner for the program. Mia, now helping at the booth, proudly wears a t-shirt with the Outreach logo, but when a fireworks display begins, Danny tenses, his mind flashing to the ambush, explosions, Rodrigo's voice fading. Sarah notices and guides him to a quieter spot, where she shares a breathing technique she uses for her own triggers. Danny steadies himself, grateful but shaken, and admits he's scared he'll never be normal again. Sarah replies, "Normal's overrated. You're finding your way, and that's stronger than you know." Later, Danny takes Mia to a hilltop overlooking the festival, a place they used to stargaze as kids. Under the vast Texas sky, he tells her about Jamal's recovery and Rodriguez's sacrifice, stories he's kept locked inside. Mia listens, then says, "You're my hero, Danny, not because you fought, but because you're still here." Her words break through his fear, and he realizes he's been fighting to live for those he loves, not just survive. Back at the festival, Danny spots his father in the crowd, who gives him a rare nod of pride. That night, Danny calls Jamal, who's planning a visit to Texas. They plan to start a veterans mentorship program together, inspired by their shared journey. Danny looks at Rodriguez's dog tags on his nightstand and writes in his journal, "I'm standing for you, Sarge, for all of us." Emotional core. Overcoming fear through love and purpose. Embracing a new strength rooted in vulnerability and connection. Key moment. On the hilltop, Danny looks at the stars with Mia and says, "I'm gonna keep fighting to be me," feeling the weight of his past lift just enough to move forward. Small town Texas. Danny's home and a local Veterans Memorial Park. Summer 2026. Scene. Danny discovers an unsent letter he wrote to Rodriguez during deployment, tucked in his old army gear. The letter, scrawled in a moment of fear before the ambush, thanks Rodriguez for being his mentor and confesses Danny's doubts he'll ever be as brave. Reading it now, Danny is flooded with guilt. He never got to say those words. He confides in Sarah at the Veterans Outreach office, where they're planning a memorial run to honor fallen soldiers. Sarah suggests Danny share the letter's sentiment at the event, but he hesitates, afraid of exposing his vulnerability. At home, Ellen notices Danny's unease and shares a story about a letter she wrote to her brother, killed in Desert Storm, that she never sent. She tells Danny, "Sometimes saying it now is what heals you." Inspired, Danny visits the Veterans Memorial Park alone at dusk, where a stone bears Rodriguez's name. He reads the letter aloud to the empty park, voice breaking, apologizing for surviving, and promising to live with courage. The act feels like a release, as if Rodriguez is listening under the stars. During the memorial run, Danny speaks briefly to the crowd, not reading the letter, but sharing its essence. "My sergeant taught me that bravery isn't being fearless, it's showing up anyway." The crowd, including Mia, his father, and Sarah, listens intently. Mia hugs him afterward, whispering, "You're enough, Danny." That night, Danny video calls Jamal, who's excited about their mentorship program idea. Danny burns the letter in a small backyard fire, watching the ashes rise like stars, feeling lighter. He writes in his journal, "I said it, Sarge. I'm trying to be brave." Emotional core. Finding closure by confronting unspoken regrets. Embracing vulnerability as a path to strength. Key moment. Danny reads the letter at the memorial park, tears falling as he says, "I'm living for you, Sarge," releasing his guilt under the starlit sky. Small town Texas, a community center and a nearby lake, late summer 2026. Scene. Danny begins mentoring a young veteran, Ethan, a troubled 19-year-old former Marine who recently returned from deployment and struggles with anger and isolation. Sarah pairs them through the Veterans Outreach program, believing Danny's experience can help. Ethan is skeptical, lashing out during their first meeting at the community center, saying, "You don't know what I've seen." Danny sees his younger self in Ethan's pain, remembering his own early days back home. He stays calm, sharing a brief story about Rodriguez's patience with him, which softens Ethan's defenses. To connect, Danny takes Ethan fishing at a quiet lake, a spot his father used to take him. As they sit by the water, Ethan opens up about losing a squad mate and feeling like he's failing his family. Danny listens, then shows Ethan Jamal's friendship bracelet, explaining how his brothers, those who survived and those who didn't, keep him grounded. He says, "You don't have to carry it alone, Ethan. Let someone help." Ethan nods, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Back home, Danny struggles with his own doubts, wondering if he's strong enough to guide someone else. Mia, sensing his worry, joins him on the porch and asks about Ethan. Danny admits he's scared of letting Ethan down, like he feels he did with Rodriguez. Mia, ever insightful, says, "You're not Sarge, Danny. You're you. And that's what Ethan needs." Her words bolster him. That night, Danny calls Jamal, who shares progress on their mentorship program and encourages Danny, "You're doing what Sarge did for us, Tex." Danny looks at the stars, feeling a renewed sense of duty, and adds a new entry to his journal. "For Ethan, for Sarge, for me, I'll keep showing up." Emotional core. The challenge of mentoring another while battling self-doubt, finding strength in passing on the lessons of brotherhood. Key moment. At the lake, Danny hands Ethan a small star-shaped keychain from the outreach program, saying, "You're not alone," mirroring the hope Rodriguez once gave him. A remote village, midnight, during an ambush. Scene. Danny's squad is ambushed while escorting a supply convoy. Explosions light up the night as gunfire erupts. Danny drags a wounded civilian to safety, his heart pounding. Sergeant Rodriguez takes a hit, and Danny watches helplessly as medics try to save him. The squad repels the attack, but Rodriguez doesn't make it. Danny sits in the dirt, staring at the stars, feeling the weight of loss for the first time. Emotional core. The raw grief of losing a mentor and the chaos of combat. Key moment. Danny finds Rodriguez dog tags in the sand and vows to carry them home. A dusty army base in a Middle Eastern conflict zone. 2024. Scene. Danny, now a private first class, bonds with his squad during a long night patrol. Sergeant Rodriguez, a tough but warm leader, teases Danny about his Texas drawl. Private Jamal Carter, no relation, Danny's closest friend, shares stories of his daughter back home. The squad laughs under the stars, but tension lingers. They know danger is near. Emotional core. The formation of a chosen family, finding light in the darkness of war. Key moment. Jamal gives Danny a friendship bracelet his daughter made, saying, "You're my brother now, Tex."